Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, here with our continuing conversation with
Will Safford from Effective Strength and Conditioning, Bjj Fanatics, and Order in Progress.
Need an Order in Progress shirt.
I have those.
So today's topic is going to be the structure of Bjj classes around the world. We're going to start with his experience, because he's got just a ridiculous amount of experience, and he knows all of the best players on the planet and all the best gyms, and he's been there and he actually knows. So how is a Bjj class structured?
It's very similar everywhere you go, I've noticed, in the jiu-jitsu community. I think the structure basically started down in Brazil and came to the United States, and it just hasn't been changed. And I have some thoughts on that, but the current way is quick warm-up, instruction. You basically learn one technique, you go drill it, come back, you learn another technique, go drill it, then you go into sparring for about 20 minutes to a half hour to finish class.
Tell me how you think it should be.
I think there should be much more time spent on preparing the body in the beginning of class for the movements that you're going to do in jiu-jitsu.
I 100% agree.
Like a functional warm-up, hip mobility, shoulder mobility, a lot of spine, warming up the spine and the core, preparing the body, and also getting the body ready to not get injured. You're doing a combat sport, a lot of times you're gonna get injured.
Yeah, you're being subjected to high rates of power, high-speed direction changes. It's like the recipe for injury.
And there's this kind of like ongoing joke that as you climb the jiu-jitsu ranks, you know, you go to blue, purple, brown, you do less and less of the warm-up. I'm mobilizing at home for like 30 minutes before I go to a jiu-jitsu class.
Yeah.
I'm getting older now, I don't want to get hurt, but also when you're fully mobile and you're ready to go, your jiu-jitsu is better. You can move better, you can, perform your techniques better. So I think there's that missing component is a really good, not just a warm-up where you're trying to increase the temperature of the body, but mobilizing the joints, preparing the hips, getting the body ready for all of those movements that you're going to do throughout the class.
I agree with this, so I'm going to throw in some interjections here. When I was young and we were doing jiu-jitsu, we did a 30-minute warm-up, and it was based on an evolution of rolls. And you would start with like a half kneeling, same side shoulder roll, and you would go across the floor and you'd come back and you would do it on the other side, and then you would do alternating sides, and then you would start from standing, and then you would start with turnaround, rear break fall into a shoulder roll. And it was a solid 30 minutes of just starting at the beginning and warming up. And then I warm up even before that, 5 minutes of neck, because you're gonna get dropped on your neck. When I go train with whoever it is in the world now, I do the same thing. I neck, hip, shoulder, and I do 15 to 20 minutes of kettlebells without putting it down with an intermediate weight. So I'm sweating and my core is on and everything works. And I do think that a lot of that's kind of being left out right now.
Definitely. You just said you work with the kettlebell. I think that would be an awesome addition to the warm-up. You know, you start with a joint mobility sequence, kind of like what we shot yesterday for your program, and then you start adding weight. And I think the weight, the resistance would help, obviously, get you warmed up even more, but it's going to build those types of qualities that you need for jiu-jitsu.
You pick up a kettlebell, you don't put it down for 12 minutes, you fired the core hundreds of times, grip is all fired up, you're not wearing yourself out, but you've got that good sweat on, then you can do those other pre-mobility drills. So like I do neck, kettlebells, and then rolling drills, because the rolling is where I get messed up. I've been dropped so many times in my life, off horses, dirt bikes. I've been thrown, judo, slammed into walls.
Yeah.
Like it hurts. Like I have to warm up and I have to mobilize. The reason I do the mobility I do is there's always neck, and then we change the position so that you start to actually learn to use your neck in, say, a shin box or in a half roll.
Right.
And then building up through shoulders. I spend less time on individual shoulder joint movement. I do these big shoulder movement drills because what I'm really concerned with is getting that forward so you can get into those rolls and falls without snapping your shoulder straight out of the socket. And then you got to do the rolls, because every time you roll, if there's a thump when you roll, you are definitely going to get hurt. Like you are going to get hurt. So 4 to 5 minutes of rolling.
Absolutely.
And evolving the drill, rolling like a ball, spinal rock, rear shoulder roll into shin box, extend the hip, and then a bit more hip warm up after that if you have time.
If you did all of that stuff, you would be moving so much better, plus your endurance would be better, you get injured less, you would just be a beast. You'd be a total beast if you did that every day before your jiu-jitsu class.
So I did Kung Fu for years on 3rd Street in Koreatown in LA. Old school Kung Fu guys came over from Korea, escaped from the north of China during the Red Revolution, came through Korea, and then came to South Korea, and then came to LA. Huge Korean population in LA. So we did this version of Shaolin Kung Fu that had come through a Korean dynasty, or Korean lineage, I guess would be the word. You know, the instructor didn't really speak English. He just walked around, he hit you with a stick if you were doing something wrong. It was like Yoda, he just like whack, 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 hit you in the head or whatever. But the warm-up was 45 minutes to an hour every day. But everybody in that school, even the 70-year-olds, could do a drop split.
Absolutely, yeah.
That you did it every day. Kick drills, movement drills, hip drills, rolling drills, and then at the end of every warm-up, the last 10 minutes, you were kicking straight up and dropping into a split. And everybody in the room could do it. Everybody. And it's not just young people. I was young at the time, in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s. But there were people in there who were 70 doing drop splits, and it's because of that warm-up every time.
There's one school, it's called 10th Planet, and I believe, I may be misspeaking here, but I believe in order to get a black belt in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, you have to be able to do full lotus.
It would murder me. I can do a front split drop, but I cannot do full lotus.
But
ever
you can
since
see,
I got
we were
hurt.
watching some jiu-jitsu videos, the
the
amount of hip mobility you need.
They get their foot behind their own head. We were watching videos this morning, and I was like, there's almost no way to prepare, because you have to be wrestling that guy for that move to happen, for you to prepare for that move. And people cannot hit that range of movement. The amount of spinal flexibility and hip mobility that those guys have under a load, they are pushing, externally rotating their hip in that position. Yep. That is a bonkers level of athleticism.
Yeah, I think just training for 10, 15 years, you'll get there just from training jiu-jitsu. But if you started adding the mobilizations before class and started really working on that hip mobility, you could get there so much quicker. The other component that I think is missing from a lot of jiu-jitsu schools is the cooldown. There's no cooldown.
There's no cooldown. Ever. You're done, everybody goes home.
Yeah, that's it. The thing that I notice is that, so after I leave a jiu-jitsu school, I get in the car. When I get out of the car, when I get home, it takes me, I'm like getting up like a piece of concrete, you know, trying to move. So, and that's because, admittedly, I don't do the best job of stretching after class.
Let's write a whole stretching program specific for jiu-jitsu. We'll use your knowledge and my nerdiness, and we'll combine them together, and we'll make like a 5 or 6 day a week cool down program. We'll make it like, I vote in the 20, 25 minute range. You get done with jiu-jitsu, you have that 5 minutes to walk off, drink a gallon of water, mop off your head, take your gi off and hang it up because it's so freaking gross. And then 20 minutes on the clock of stretching.
Some of the muscles that get really tight in jiu-jitsu is the psoas.
Oh my God.
Because you're constantly holding your knee up. So
you're being loaded. You're also being compressed loaded every time you do that knee block. Some guy's falling on that. You're just jacking that thing up.
Yeah, so a lot of hip, psoas, front of the leg stretches would be needed in that program. Your pecs, because you're constantly working in front of you here, this area gets really, really tight. And your neck. Good neck mobility and flexibility, I think, would be really important. Lower back, I think that's probably the number one issue in jiu-jitsu is lower back. And like you're saying, I think it comes from that, not having the mobility in the spine, add in tight hips, and then the compression, dynamic movements of jiu-jitsu itself. I think that's probably the number one. Lower back issues, neck, shoulder, and knee.
All right, this has been yet another extraordinarily nerdy talk with Mark and Will. I need to get back into a school. All the schools have been closed for so long. Right, yeah. San Diego, they were open though, which I really enjoyed.
Yep. But with your programs and your knowledge, there's a lot you can do at home to prepare yourself to get back on the mats.
Lots of loaded shin box mobility drills, and then lots of endurance hip hinge.